My name is Brenda.
Brenda. And Brenda, when were you born? What year were you born?
1954.
1954, so in the 50s. And
Yep.
where did you grow up during your childhood years?
I started first like 3 years in West Virginia and grew up in Canton, Ohio the rest of the time.
So you spent your childhood years in Canton, Ohio. And as you think back to when you were a kid, running around playing in the streets or in elementary school, can you remember and describe your childhood friends? Like what color they were? Were they boys and girls, big, little, small?
Okay, I had both.
Do you remember like the different childhood games that you played when you were little with your friends in the neighborhood?
Well, I didn't really play with my friends because I was bullied a lot.
Oh, okay.
I didn't play that much, but we did hide and seek and maybe baseball and stuff. But see, well, the kids that I wanted to play with, I wasn't allowed to play with because they were not the right color.
What is your earliest memory of someone pointing out to you that there's this difference between black people and white people?
I can remember one time I was walking. I was real little. I don't know how big. Maybe 6. I was walking downtown with my mother, and there was a black man walking opposite toward us.
Mm-hmm.
She grabbed me with one hand and put her arm around me and grabbed her purse with the other hand and put it. And that's every time we went to see black people, that's what she would do. And it was kind of like physically putting the fear in me. I was scared. At that point, I was scared of black people because what she did, she pulled me toward her and pulled her purse. It kind of scared me. But then I figured that. But yeah, and I remember one time it was the man with the collar. So it was a black pastor, and it didn't make any difference. She was still black, and she was still but she never. But the bad thing was she never protected me against the white man at home that was beating me.
No way. And then someone of color who was just either passing you in the store or in the street, who you didn't even know, they didn't even do anything yet. She was physically doing things that made you feel like, wow, this person we have to look out for or be in fear of.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the one that was abusive towards you at home, she didn't, make an issue of it or anything.
Yeah, well, because she was abused too. So, I think she was just battered women too. So.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured out at 7, and I figured out what an epiphany is.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up 7 o'clock in the morning. I woke up one Saturday morning and knew at 7 that everybody was lying to me, that black people weren't bad and they weren't going to hurt me.
Wow, at the age of 7.
At 7. And then it was terrible because from then on, I had to hear it, and I was in a very abusive home, and I could not, and I had to hear the N-word and couldn't say anything about it.
Wow.
And then I was called an N-lover or whatever, but I wasn't allowed to bring any black children home, and I wasn't allowed to talk about black children because the N-word was every other word in my house.
Oh. But, do you remember like the first time when you tried to object to it and how they reacted?
Well, one time I brought a friend home with me, but I knew better than to do it. But I thought they were both at work. And so my stepfather wasn't at work, he went to the bar instead. And so he came up in the yard, and I was 8 maybe, and he comes in the yard and he hollers, "What's that doing in my yard?" And I looked at him and I said, "Run." Because I knew she beat me, and he supposedly loved me. I didn't know what he would do to her.
Right.
So I just told her to run.
And you guys were around 8 years old?
Yes.
Wow.
I remember one time, and this is talking off subject, but one of the neighbor kids, his name was Bruce, he came over because my brother had a basketball thing on our garage, and he came over and was playing basketball, and he knew he wasn't allowed there. My brother knew he wasn't allowed there, and his father caught him, and his father took him and beat him. We could hear the kids screaming in the back of the yard. He says, "I'm going to teach you, because I'm not going to let him beat you. I'm going to beat you. You're not allowed in that man's yard. He doesn't want you in his yard. He doesn't need you in his yard." And he beat him, and I felt so bad. I understand now why he did.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't understand that. I was like, daggone, that dad's just beating, you could hear him screaming.
Right,
You know,
right.
but it was because, but he knew my stepfather from work, and he knew that he absolutely did not like black people.
Oh.
And he, he said, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to let him kill you. I'm not going to let him hit you. I'm going to do it.
Right. So he was just
But
basically trying to protect him because he knew how your stepfather would react if he caught him there.
Yeah.
And it could have been worse than just a beating or something like that.
He could have killed him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could have killed him. Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And as you got older, did it change? Did their views change, or they were just always?
They never changed. They never changed. Well, actually, after my stepfather passed, my mother actually voted for Barack.
Really? Wow.
I was shocked. Yeah, but he was a Democrat. It was either black or Republican, and she chose black rather than Republican. So.
No way! Wow.
So,
as you got older, how did you see things, and what were your experiences with, different people of different color as you got older and you got into the workforce or out of school?
In school, in 7th grade, I met the lady I call my mama today, my spiritual mama. She was my 7th grade teacher, black teacher, only black teacher in the area, and I used to lock myself in her car. She had a 65 Dodge Dart, and I used to lock myself in her car so she could give me a ride home. Now I figured out it was so dangerous for her doing that, but she did. And then one day, she decided she would lock her car. And so when she came out, I was sitting on top of her car, and she had things in her hands. She threw them up in the air, and I know what she said. Okay, God, I got her. Now what am I supposed to do with her? So. But she's like my spiritual mother today. I mean, my real mother's passed. And I forgave her for everything she did, because she did some things too. I wasn't just my stepfather. But this lady was, we still today, she's like my mama. I've always, she'll always be in my mama in my heart. And I was 12, and I'm 66 now, and we're still, I could call her today. And want anything.
Really?
That's my mama.
I've
written
amazing.
Poems about her, and I she just, she brought me to Jesus. Everything, anything in my life, good or bad, she was there. She was at my wedding. She was there when my son got convicted. She was there, just every time I needed, anytime I was anything important in my life, she was always there. I had my son's wedding, she was there. I had a 25-year anniversary, she was there. It was just everything, every time that she was there.
Wow, that's
so my parents didn't fight it, because they knew wouldn't be fighting it, because I wouldn't, I was. Because I was an adult most of those times, so.
That was such a major influence in your life, your entire life, even like you said, even still to this day.
To this day, that's my mama. You can anybody can be a mother. All it takes is giving birth, but to be a mama, that's. And I always make up a story, and I tell people that the Lord actually wanted me to be this lady's child, but she was only 16 when and her father would have killed her, and so he waited until he gave me to somebody else, and I wasn't going to be treated well. But when I got my real mama, I really appreciate her.
Wow, yeah, that's a good.
And I went through a drug phase too.
Say that again.
I went through a drug phase too. I went through a drug phase.
Oh, a drug phase.
I was on crack.
Really?
I was on crack for 6 months at $30,000. And I had a dream, and the Lord told me, go to her. She's your only connection to heaven. And when I went to her, she took the palm of her hand, and she hit me in my forehead. She says, I've worked too hard. The devil can't have you. And when she prayed, I had prayer. And I've never, ever been back. I've never been back on it. Well, one time I went back on it. She told me she'd call the police on me if I ever did. So. But the one time I did go back, she headed for the phone, and I begged her not to. And the next day, she had an intervention at my school at the library, and she called me to the library, and they locked me in and had an intervention. But that was like in the late 90s. But I've been coke free since then.
Wow. And when you first tried crack, how old were you?
I was an adult. And see, the bad thing was, I tried it here in California, and some friends of ours gave us for the whole weekend, because my husband and I both had good jobs. They gave it to us free for the whole weekend, thinking that we would get hooked, and we didn't. And then when it came up in Ohio, I said, I can deal with it. I dealt with it before. I think it was just Satan setting me up. It was like, hey, okay. And then, but I had a motorcycle accident, and that's why I had the cash.
Oh, okay.
That's where the cash came in. But anyway, my husband and I, that's one of the reasons my husband and I divorced, is because he said if he wanted to do more cocaine, he would. And I told him, not in my house, he won't. And I was making payments. And so I decided I wasn't going to take the chance of ever having to, because he was a big influence on it. And like when I was with him, if he did some, I'd want to do some too. So, because frankly, I loved it. That's the bad thing. It was great. It made you feel like you could do anything. So.
And then did you just stop basically cold turkey, or you had to go into a treatment facility, or?
Never went to treatment facility, nothing. Nope.
Wow, and you just stopped.
I stayed at her house for like a week. Then he kept on calling me saying, you need to come home, and I knew I couldn't. And then afterwards, I came home to an empty house, but I never did any more.
That's so deep. I mean, and profound, and just for you to turn it around, and then with your spiritual mother helping you, and that's just
prayer. It was prayer, and
as you look back at your life, and then you look into the future, and think about race or racism, where it was and how you were first brought up understanding it to be, and then where it is today. Like, how would you see the future? How do you see the future?
I'm hoping it gets better. I believe it'll get better, but I think there's a lot of healing happening. And also, I do believe that, it's a lot undercover. There's a lot undercover that people don't, because being white people can say things to me that they won't say around black people. They think it's okay. And sometimes I'll just listen for a while just to hear what they have to say. But then I have to tell them that, that they're wrong, and that, I know for a fact that.
Like when someone who looks exactly like you says stuff like that, and then you bring up like an objection, do they fight you on it, or they just,
Oh yeah, they don't. They probably befriend me and stuff, But no, they just think I'm just one of those people and lovers. And I really, I don't care. I really, I've been treated better in the black community than I have in the white community. I was considered white trash in the white community, where I was accepted in the black community. I've always been treated well in the black community.
That's interesting.
But in the white community, I have not been treated well because I don't have the same opinion as most white people.
Okay. They're afraid what?
Go ahead.
You were saying they're afraid of what?
They're afraid that I'm gonna wear off them or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't understand. I wanted to tell you a poem on racism that I made.
Oh yes, please.
I'm an outspoken word artist. Okay, it's called Wannabe. Some people call me a wannabe. Those people really don't know me. I don't try to. I want to be black. I truly don't need that kind of a cap to be put down solely for the color of my face. When God made us all one human race, I don't judge people by the color of their skin. According to His word, that's a sin. He commanded us to love one another, to treat all men as if they were brothers. Racism is the most evil kind of hate. Walk a mile in their shoes, then try to relate. So call me what you will, call me what you might, but remember, I walk by faith and not by sight.
Wow, that really captures a lot of the feeling and the thoughts surrounding racism and race.
And I had a kid teach me to rap because I was always doing poetry, but it was dry. And there was a kid in my daycare, and he was always in trouble. And his name was Trayvonte. And I said, Trey, I want to learn the basketball rap, by Curtis Blow. And he said, you can't learn that. You old and white. You old and
No,
white.
he did.
So it took me 3 months to learn it. Yeah, and I would take him out because he was always in trouble and getting kicked out. And I would take him out, like I'd say, I know when you're ready to blow. We'll go out in the hall 5 minutes. And he learned how to turn it around because he went to college and he graduated from college last year.
That's
he was one of those statistics that were going to jail. You can see it. He had such an anger problem. But he learned, I didn't do anything. He learned through breaking off like that and, doing something, the 5 minutes, he calmed down and then he went back and was fine. So he learned, but it took him a while, but yeah.
That's a great story. Wow. Very interesting. And so he taught you how to learn.
The basketball is my favorite sport. I like it.
Yeah.
Then I was able to put my poetry into that, in that rhythm.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Some kind of rhythm, yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't come off as just like dry poetry. It does have a flow and a rhythm to it.
Yeah. It has a flow to it, yeah. Okay, let me do a rap for you.
Okay.
It's like 1 minute. Okay. This is my audition for America's Got Talent. I didn't make it, but I think it's haters. Okay. I'm auditioning for America's Got Talent. If I bring it any harder, I'll have to bring a mallet. I get so ecstatic when I spit my bars. Make some young people say it's better than theirs. Audience is shocked when they hear my flow. Make them step back, make them say, whoa. I want to hear Mel B say I'm off the chain. I need her encouragement like the flower needs the rain. My mind goes into a whirl when I get an inspiration like the outside of the glass. I'm the condensation. I'm not too worried about Simon Cowell. The like what I'll bring, because I'll bring it with a pow. But I won't bring it all. I'll just bring a sample for the younger generation trying to be a good example. So here I'll stand with my eyes on the prize. I won't listen to the haters. I won't believe their lies.
That's good. That was good. I mean, if you put a hip hop beat on that would be good.
Yeah.
No, if you put a hip hop beat on, if you put a hip hop beat on, if you put a pop beat on.
I'm auditioning for America's Got Talent. If I bring it any harder, I'll have to bring a mallet. I get so ecstatic when I spit my bars. Make some young people say it's better than theirs. Audience is shocked when they hear my flow. Make them step back, make them say, whoa. I want to hear Mel B say I'm off the chain. I need her encouragement like the flower needs the rain. My mind goes into a whirl when I get an inspiration like the outside of the glass. I'm the condensation. I'm not too worried about Simon Cowell. The like what I'll bring, because I'll bring it with a pow.